A lot is going on in the world, and we'll be talking about that here on Pod TV and seeing what's happening in the world and around the world and all along those lines. I know I've got Rick Rosner with me. I've got Jim Ead, and there's a lot of things taking place in the world that we'll be glad to be talking about on this particular day and all along those lines. So, like I said, just so much going on with Kristi Noem being released from her job, and of course, the continuing war over there in the Middle East and all along those lines. So definitely a lot is taking place in the world, and always glad to be reporting on that here on the Pod TV and hear what folks have to say about a number of these stories that are taking place and how they are going around and all in that way. Because, like I said, there's a lot going on in the world, including expanding military in very places like the Middle East. Apparently, a man used Google Translate to announce his New Jersey restaurant robbery, and that failed to execute. So, in that case, it wasn't always working in the sense of using Google and all in that kind of way. But that was just a interesting story that just popped across my screen and everything like that. But a lot's going on in the world, and we'll be talking about that here on the network and hear what Rick Rosner and others have to say about that. So definitely there's a lot going on in the world, and we're always glad to be hearing what folks' thoughts are in that sense and what their idea of the world news is and everything like that. So like I said, there's a lot going on, and we're glad to be reporting on that here on the network and everything like that. So I'm going to bring in Rick, see what he's finding out about these various news stories and everything like that. I know one of the big story is the Middle East and the continuing conflict in the Middle East and everything like that.
There's another story. The February jobs numbers are out.
I did see that.
They are bad. A net loss of 92,000 jobs. And previous month revised downward, December revised downward. And if you do the math on all of that, it looks like in the last 10 months, since Trump imposed tariffs, the U.S. has lost a net 18,000 jobs.
Wow.
For the first time since the COVID year of 2020. And before that, you got to go back to about 2009. Every year from like 2011, 2010 on, the U.S. has added millions of jobs. But we're looking at almost a year of no job growth.
No job growth here in the U.S.
It's not just Trump. It's also AI is eating jobs.
Oh, yeah. AI is definitely eating jobs. And this Israel war, it looks like it's going to expand because they said Israel pounded Beirut and expansion of the war. Iran says that definitely there's a lot going on there. So Lebanon is reeling under a wave of Israeli strikes and displacement. So it's not just hitting Iran, it's also hitting Lebanon, and will probably expand into other countries as well. And apparently there's a UK spying case going on as well. So 4 were arrested on suspicion of assisting Iran's intelligence services. So 4 suspected Iranian spies have been arrested in London, according to the police there, and everything like that.
Let's talk about Lebanon for a sec. Lebanon used to be a nice country, and then it turned into kind of a mafia country where Hezbollah kind of took over. You know, the Lebanese people, they're perfectly nice people. Hezbollah, not nice, and runs the country like a mafia fiefdom.
Well, and apparently the Khamenei killing has sparked anger and grief in South Asia's Shiite Muslims. And I know they're different Muslims. They're Sunnis, they're Shiite, but apparently the Shiites are not happy about that. So the start of the Iran war, they're also saying, was determined by spying success. So apparently they're also, this is an interesting headline, and I want to hear your thoughts about it. I wish Sasha was here. But they're saying that Trump has opened the Pandora box of assassination. So I know there are a number of people, including those in Ukraine, that are hoping to assassinate Putin and everything. But with this Khomeini assassination, there could be a Pandora box where there could be a number of.
I believe it's illegal. We used to do this stuff, more frequently, and then I think we passed laws that the U.S. isn't allowed to assassinate foreign leaders. But who's going to stop Trump?
Yeah, who's going to stop Trump? That's the $6 million question. I have a $6 million answer, and Trump says he wants unconditional surrender as the attacks continue. So he's demanding surrender as Israel strikes Tehran, and apparently Iran retaliated after Israel strikes Beirut and Tehran, as that war is now in day 7. So it's definitely a continuing war and everything like that. So I'll bring in Sasha. Sasha's with us and everything like that. Sasha, I was just talking to Rick, and apparently there's some news media reports that saying that the assassination of Khamenei may have opened the Pandora's box of assassinations. I know a lot of Ukrainians are hoping that Putin gets assassinated, but maybe it's going to open up this Pandora's box where leaders are assassinated left and right. So what's your take on that as one that was in the military there in the Soviet Union way back when?
Well, first of all, there is no world order now exists. There is no order of any kind. There are no rules of engagement. There are no diplomatic rules of any kind. The U.S. twice in the last few months had negotiations with Iran, and during the negotiations, it would attack Iran with all its might. So therefore, Iran is no longer would allow itself to get involved in negotiations with the United States. By the way, I don't believe any country would be involved in negotiations with the United States. It's not credible. It's breaking the negotiations, start the war during the negotiations. So not to be trusted, period. That's why, by the way, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, he refused to talk to Trump and negotiate with Trump or do anything with Trump. Nothing. Zero reaction. So Trump is trying to engage him from time to time. No response. Nothing. So this is where U.S. regrettably got itself thanks to Trump, and I don't see easy way out of it. Furthermore, Iran is doing quite well to attacking all kind of targets in Gulf region, including the American bases. And now there is a uproar in this region from Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, the biggest donors of Trump regimes, giving him billions, if sometimes maybe even trillions of dollars. And now they're saying, look, okay, we are paying so much money, and you cannot defend us. You cannot even defend yourself from Shahid attacks and so on. So therefore, there could be a situation where U.S. will be politely asked to leave this countries altogether, close their military bases, and just get out of there. But maybe I'm not right. What do you think, Jim?
Well, Sasha, I can't tell you exactly where you're wrong in your analysis. I do think that it's been a huge blunder in the way things have been handled. The consequences, if they were predicted at all, were have gone counter to their predictions. We lost jobs in February instead of gaining, and we've been gaining. The rate of gain has gone down, and now we're losing jobs. So the disconnect between Main Street and Wall Street remains. The market is now telling us that they don't like what's going on either. And it formerly it was covered up by companies that were still generating great revenues, and their stock prices were still doing well. But now no one knows what to predict. They can't do any planning for the future. So all of these types of things have correlated into this massive jitteriness that is affecting everyone's ability to plan for the future. And of course, all the countries that have aligned to do trading within themselves because they no longer trust the United States to be a fair trade partner. All of these things are compounding to make the near-term future looks grim. And the only thing we can hold our hats on is the midterm elections will say the people of the United States have had enough. And once we get that kind of signal, then I have hope that the better angels will still hold sway in this country, and people will stand up and say, they will speak up and shout out that this is not the country we want.
Yeah, that makes a
So
lot of
the new survey is out saying that people trust the scientists at the CDC way more than they trust RFK Jr. They
that's a
trust
good
their own
thing.
personal doctors. Now, will any of this, I would hope, rising tide of discontent make a dent in Trump's support? In the last week, it hasn't. His approval actually went up in the second half of February. But I think that's a statistical blip based on crappy pollsters. I can't believe that people aren't pretty upset about what's going on. The net loss of 18,000 jobs over the past 10 months, when we should, in every previous year except for the COVID year, we've gained millions of jobs. And you know, I mean, it's not just Trump, it's AI. But in the, you know, there was a comedy movie, Airplane, where the guy said picked a bad time to quit drinking when you know, planes are flying out. It's like, we picked a bad time with AI eating our lunch. We picked a bad time to put in Mr. Tariffs and Mr. Let's start a war and raise the price of gas 40 cents in a week.
Well, a couple of things. One is I think that those diehards will be diehards forever and everything like that. Hopefully, there are some like the Marjorie Taylor Greens and others that might be having regrets and might be pulling away from Trump. But there is a diehard population that will be with Trump forever, no matter what he does.
But they're not. They're only 20% of Americans.
That's true. So I think
he still has. But let's see how what they think in a month. After a month of this ongoing, he's got 98% among Trumpers, among MAGA. But that's
MAGA. And he might get some break in that. Jim, I had a question for you, and then another question that's similar for Sasha and everything. But I know that you are a man of peace, and that's part of what your whole thing is also about, getting over addictions and stuff along those lines. But are you afraid, as a lot of people are, that this war is going to expand? I just saw that Sri Lanka took charge of an Iranian naval ship, and even in Australia, they're saying that Australians are being dragged into the U.S. and Israel's war against Iran. So definitely, because they're saying that the Labor Party is not repudiating Trumpism and everything like that. So what is your take on how expansive this war effort could become?
Well, it's difficult to predict, but it's already expanded well beyond the Middle East. And even the Middle Eastern countries that didn't start involved have become involved because Iran is striking them to attack U.S. military bases, and it's pushing up to involve Turkey as well as in Sri Lanka, and these types of things are inevitable when it comes to war. War is never a good thing. War is expensive, and the people that profit are the ones who make the war materials, the bullets and the missiles and those things. And so there's very few people happy, and those few people are making a lot of money, which is basically a way of summing up the Trump presidency. Those very few people making money are making a lot of money, and the rest of them are feeling the pinch.
The New York Times is out with an analysis of before and after photos of the neighborhood of the girls' school, which makes a strong case that we bombed that school in error, killing 175 people, most of them little girls. There were three. There's a compound of the Republican Guard, the Royal, and we hit all those buildings and the girls' school, looks like, at the same time. So it was a failure of intelligence, and because people were hoping that it wasn't our fault, that it was the Iranians firing back at us, and that a missile went astray. But New York Times, this makes a pretty persuasive case that it was our screw up.
Screw ups are inevitable in war, and these are the consequences that often don't lead in the news broadcasts. These are the types of things that are inevitable consequences of declaring war. And, we're using the term war, but Congress hasn't declared war on anyone. And
They're
so
calling it a special military operation, which it is.
that's what Putin said going into Ukraine.
It's special the way special ed is special.
But the whole point is these are wars of choice. These are unilateral actions by the executive branch, and the person in charge of the executive branch happens to be Trump. So we're taking action, special military operations, war, whatever you want to call it. We're taking it based on his whim, not on the vote of Congress.
And we wouldn't be doing it had Trump not done creepy stuff with underage girls in previous decades.
So you think he's distracting us from other?
He's bouncing around like a. Remember when we were kids and you could get Mexican jumping beans?
Yes.
His brain is a Mexican jumping bean.
Well, that's kind.
I mean, he did on February 11th. Netanyahu spent 3 hours trying to persuade Trump into going into Iran, and obviously Netanyahu was successful.
Yes, and so Sasha, let me ask you this: there's no question that the United States used to be defined by trying to export democratic values, and now it seems to be importing czarist values from Putin. But now it seems like Netanyahu also has Trump's ear in the way of he wants to rule like Netanyahu is ruling, and Bibi seems to have control, although there's a lot of dissent in Israel as well about the way things are going. So what's your take on that? The relationship between Trump and Netanyahu?
But look, there is a huge difference between rule of Netanyahu, who was democratically elected and who is being supported by sizable population of Israel. But most important thing is that Israel was attacked on October 7th, year and a half ago, almost 2.5 years ago, by Hamas. And so therefore, Israel, whether it wanted or not, but it had to respond, it had to wage a war against Hamas, and so on, all the history. Unlike US, which was not attacked by anybody. So all these actions, what Trump is taking, whether he wants to do as Netanyahu does or as Putin does or so on, that's absolutely unwarranted. And here, that's very interesting correlation between special military operation of Putin and US. What's interesting is that, it's very clear to anybody except maybe Trump that Russia is aggressor in its war against Ukraine. It's full stop, period. Nothing to discuss. Now, is the US and Israel are aggressors in a war against Iran? The answer should be obvious, yes, but it's not 100% so. So they are now talking about that it's Iran who started its aggression against the United States 50-some years ago. So now U.S. is just responding to Ayatollah and like-minded people who started their aggression back in 1979. So this is a continuation of that war. There is nothing new in this, and so on. If you like it or not, the Iran, when you have an image of the great Gerald Ford avia carrier worth $14 billion and all those B-52 now in action and all the military machinery, there is no doubt that U.S. and Israel much stronger from military point of view than Iran. So it should be a question not if, but when that war will be over. But surprisingly enough, where You see, United States spends $1 trillion plus on military budget. They don't have defense against Shahed, the Iranian drones, which Russia is using against Ukraine. Now, Ukraine learned and have defense against these drones, which are demonstrating daily. And U.S. asked if Ukrainian can help with drone defense. Ukraine said, yes, we are ready to provide you with our experience against drone defense. What's at the same time, what Trump is doing now, he is barraging that Zelensky is the only obstacle on a peace between Russia and Ukraine, and he must go. Then he is offering Russia that they can now sell their oil to India. So India would help, would be upset the not embargo, but the blockade in Hormuz Strait. So now Russia is getting even more money thanks to US for waging its war on Ukraine. So this is just to show how can you deal with Donald Trump. The only way is our Prime Minister Carney, who just doesn't talk to him, period. There are no negotiations ongoing, there is no discussions, nothing, zero. That's the only way how you can communicate with him.
Rick, I
Yeah.
Dr. Sharif, you have a different perspective, perhaps. What is your take on this? We're kind of aligned in this, and I just wanted to know if living on a different side of the world from me, and how do you see
Yeah, thank you. As you discuss about this Iran wire and all of the things in between Iran, Israel, and USA, what I'm observing in Bangladesh, actually, we have energy crisis right now, even in Asia, because of the most strategic part for these things uh, is Hormuz, right? This Hormuz, where Iran actually want to take control, and there is a 40% of the oil and gas go through this Hormuz. Uh, so for that particular issues, not only Bangladesh, even in Asia, I'm observing there is a increase the price of energy. If this war continue next few weeks and month, we will face a huge trouble with energy crisis. Number one, maybe we will not get enough oil and gas and all of the things because of this war, and Iran take the control of Hormuz. Secondly, all of the price, like food price and medicine price and everything goes very high. So how? Yeah, definitely USA is very powerful. Undoubtedly, Israel has powerful defense and everything. But how we are observing these things in terms of energy crisis, it may cause a huge damage of business ecosystem, not only in South Asia, around the world. Even last year I was in California. I see that California has a strong need energies and all of the sources through these hormones and other things. Secondly, uh, if you discuss about the people perceptions, yes, Iran attacked many Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, like UAEs, and many more countries. But if you discuss with the mass people, they actually do not like this war. This is number one. Number two, this mass people, even how this Iran is attacking different kind of area of these Muslim countries. Honestly speaking, many Muslim people they support Iran because they want to survive, they want to protect themselves, and that's why they are attacking this U.S. base and all of the things. Third important issues, what I'm observing, uh, in terms of media wire, let's say where the Fox News, the CNN, and other things. Let's say Pot TV is a neutral platform. That's why everybody discussing these things. So Fox News and other media, they are actually covering Israel power, American powers, and all of the mandate. On the other hand, Muslim media, social media, they are also bringing all of the things. So we are observing a lot of misinformations
Yes.
and disinformations with this wire and everything. We are observing many AI generated content in social media from both of the groups, from USA, like from Israel and from Iran. So this misinformation and disinformation cause uh, it's actually creating hate each other. We are actually hating each other through this process. So what I'm observing, this energy and business, then this Islamophobia and these challenges, and third point, this misinformations and disinformation is actually create very negative impact. On the other hand, what we are observing that maybe Iran are trying to negotiating with China for this Hormuz, for this oil and gas supply for this Iran. Maybe Trump administration want to destroy their competitor like China, right? That's why they are taking this wire and all of the lead. So this is very interesting moment, uh, but very challenging moment. If it's continue next 1 month, specifically with these energy sectors, it will be huge crisis for Bangladesh. It will be huge crisis for South Asia. It will be huge crisis for around the world. So it's very alarming time. Thank you.
Here's another angle on Israel, Iran, and the U.S. Trump told Axios, a news organization, yesterday that the president of Israel, Isaac Herzog, must pardon Prime Minister Netanyahu today. So Netanyahu's been on trial for years for corruption, with the consequences delayed until he's out of office. But Trump said, every day I talk to Bibi, Netanyahu, about the war. I want him to focus on the war and not on the fucking court case. I want the only pressure on Bibi to be the fighting against Iran. So Trump wants Netanyahu pardoned so he can be a better war fighter.
That's interesting. Toby, how about you? Can you speak in, walk in, talk at the same time?
I sure can. I mean, so if we're speaking about what's going on, yes, Netanyahu is best friends with Trump. They have such a great relationship. So they're utilizing, yes, Netanyahu is utilizing this war to stay in power. That's what he's basically doing. That's what he did in Gaza. It was losing its press. It wasn't the focus anymore, at least on the U.S. side, especially since a lot of individuals, well, the support in the U.S. for Israel has dropped based on what Netanyahu is doing. So that coverage is gone now. If you notice, we don't see anything about the deaths that are happening currently in Gaza. And also the same thing with the amount of famine that's still happening in Gaza. We don't see that anymore because the shift in the views has shifted more towards the Palestinian people and a lot away from actually Israel. So we don't see that in the news anymore. Now we see what's going on with Iran. We can all speak from that base that we all agree Iran was a bad actor. However, there was no imminent threat. But now, because of the media campaign that they're pushing, they're trying to come up with something that's going to stick to the wall. Because it's all really what it is. Exactly what Dr. Sharif was talking about in terms of this media campaign about what's going on. There's a lot of fallacies and a lot of misinformation. That is one of the biggest exports from the U.S. currently. Because they're putting out, Trump can't get his message straight. His administration can't get their message straight. So therefore, we're stuck in a quagmire where we have an endless war again. We've destabilized the Middle East again. Trump wants to steal the oil, but he can't. Sasha points out how much of a problem that he's created because after he's attacked Ukraine numerous times, now he's begging for help from Ukraine. But then on top of that, he has to get oil over to the other places like India to keep India supporting his his administration, but he can't do that without utilizing Russia. Now Russia is not, I mean, he's shooting from the hip, trying to figure out or trying to make it up on the spot. And that is a bad situation. Now the idea is to arm the Kurds, and now we're picking winners and losers. He's gone out there and said, hey, I must be the one to choose who leads Iran now. What Iranian leader is going to actually agree to that when it's basically you're being submissive to the US? And that's one of the big things that the Middle East does not want. It is not, and on top of that, they're a country, they're a sovereign nation. We're not the ones that are supposed to be deciding who gets to rule everywhere. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. So yeah, we're in a global crisis of Trump's making.
Thank you, Jacoby. Kimberly, it's great to see you.
Hi, Jim,
Hi.
and Sharif, and Sasha, and Rick, and Jacoby. Hi, everybody. Mark. Yeah, I want to change the subject just slightly, but still concerning probably the war, is that in 130 years that the Dow has existed, it has only dropped 1,000 points 14 times, and 12 of those times it has been under Trump. So I guess we can blame an economy on that, not the president. But we need to be very conscious now, because this strike has made Americans, all Americans, a target of revenge. This was an extreme terrorist attack on Iran for several reasons. One, they saw Iran as an easy, weak target that they could win a simple war and come out heroes. Two, they did this for oil and gas, and probably what other resources they could steal from Iran, just like they're doing from everywhere else. And three, when you do a strike like this, the U.S. is knowingly, we have pinpoint precision weapons that could take the flea off of the hair strand of Trump's wig. And we managed to blow up a school, bomb a school, elementary school, and kill 150 little girls. Now, when you have a general saying, we hit every target we planned, that tells me that this was intentional, and that tells the Iranian this was intentional. So I believe that they have made us a target for life for revenge, because you can kill as many supreme leaders as you want. They can replace them. They're old. To me, they've been nothing but a decoy. They put them out there going, here's the man we worship. But when you kill 150 little girls, think in your heart what you would feel like or do if it was your child. Okay, every Iranian over there is now a walking, ticking time bomb for revenge for those little girls. You took away their future. And that to me was wrong. And I believe in my heart of hearts that was intentional. But anyway, I'm just concerned about the Dow now, as well as our life. So
That's very interesting situation is that Trump was asking European countries, including UK, Spain, France, Germany, whatever, to help him in this war against inhuman, horrible terrorist regime of Iran and the Ayatollahs and so on. And they flatly refused to do so. Now it's becoming very clear why. Because they don't want Iranians, who are probably the most fanatical people in history of the world. They don't want them to orchestrate attacks on European targets, embassies, citizens, and so on, because they are trying to protect their citizens like every government should do, except Trump. Trump does not care about U.S. citizens. Actually, he'd rather kill them, like in Minnesota, than do anything else. There are no evacuation plans from thousands and thousands of Americans stranded in Gulf states and Israel and everywhere else. They cannot defend their military bases in the region. They cannot defend the friendly governments who are giving him billions and hundreds of billions and probably trillions of dollars. And now they see that for these trillions of dollars, they don't have any protection from the United States. Iran can bomb them and destroy their targets just as easily. And now there is a great difference between Iran a few months ago in June when there was a bombing of B2, B1 nuclear reactors and so-called obliteration of these targets, which is not true at all, as we see now. So what they are doing at that time, they didn't offer any meaningful resistance. They sort of like resigned to whatever happened, and it was 12 days war, as we call it, between Israel and Iran, with U.S. Air Force. Today, situation is different. Iran wants to extract from United States and Israel as much Jews as possible. In fact, inflicting as much damage as possible to their military bases, to these friendly Gulf governments and the countries, and so on. And hitting sometimes a certain targets, so like in Cyprus, there was attack, or so on. So they want to create as much chaos as possible and extract so high price from the United States and Israel that they would next time, they would think twice if they really need to attack Iran.
The actions of our government are affecting how Americans, how we think of ourselves. Pew Research, a polling company, surveyed people in 25 countries, asking people, do you think the citizens, do you think your fellow citizens are morally good or morally bad? Out of 25 countries, the only country where a majority of people surveyed said, I think we are bad is America. 53% of the people surveyed said, I think Americans are morally bad right now. And 24 other countries, people surveyed said, I think we're mostly good. Canada came in with 92% of Canadians said, yeah, I think Canadians are good people. That you guys were number one in thinking of yourselves as good. And U.S. was number last in thinking of ourselves as good.
Number last and everything like that. Hey, Sasha, just really quickly, there's another country that has oftentimes been in the happiness index, but they had a interesting thing to do with the war. And I know this is a country that you're familiar with, that being Finland. But apparently Finland is breaking a decade-long precedent and saying that they will host nuclear weapons and will even import nuclear weapons. So I was just wondering your thought on that, because historically Finland has been I know it's been at times in the Russian influence, but it has also been a country that has been on the happiness index and everything like that. And it's definitely recently been one of those peaceful Scandinavian countries. But I just wanted your take on this, because this just came out, I think, in the last day or two, that they are willing to host and to import nuclear weapons.
Well, you have to understand that there will be definitely a proliferation of nuclear arms around the world. And the best example is North Korea. North Korea proved that as long as you have nuclear weapons, nobody will attack you. Nobody is crazy enough to attack a country with nuclear weapons. That's why Iran, you may justify their aspiration to become a nuclear weapons country, because nobody in its right mind would attack them ever. The problem with Iran, though, was that they were stating for dozens of years that they want to attack and essentially destroy Israel. And of course, if they would have nuclear weapons, they could do it quite easily. Never mind that Israel has its own nuclear weapons, or maybe they don't. But when Golda Meir was asked if Israel has nuclear weapons, she answered no, but if needed, we can use them. So it's ambiguity, or strategic ambiguity, if you want, but that's what happened there. So Iran, of course, would use nuclear weapons. I'm scared about something else. With conventional weapons, without foot on the ground, United States will never ever win a war or achieve its goals like regime change or so on. Out. So the only alternative to win this, to get this objective, and without having their foot on the ground, is a nuclear option. It's a nuke Iran. That way, they will change government there. Although they will change a bunch of dead people for another bunch of dead people. I don't know how it's going to, in the nuclear scenario, how you achieve government change. I don't know how it's going to be done, but I don't see really what else Trump is going to do that, because right now, see, if he would, after 2 days when he killed the Ayatollah and 40 or so of his advisors, so you could say, we got our objectives. We are out. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day. That could have been done and he would be perceived as a winner. Now, when he continues the fight and it goes longer, nobody remembers anymore the Ayatollah and his 40 advisors. There is now 3 Ayatollahs and 155 advisors. So what have you achieved last Saturday on the attack? Nothing. So now it's a full-scale war. Now Iran has at least as much ammunition to inflict all damages on the United States client states in the Gulf, their military bases, and so on. So to extract a full price for your attack, here is a payment. Here is a payback time, baby. And how Trump can avoid that, and now it's almost mid-March, so until November, there is not so much time left. Because even if you stop the war now, in next hour and a half, it will take months to reassure that there will be a supply of oil, to get everything back to, you see, oil got today up to $88 a barrel. So we are not too far away from 100. And that will spell into $3.50 to $4 a gallon in the United States. And I don't think that the voters will be very happy about that. They don't care so much about Iran. They do care at the pump prices.
To go back to Finland, Finland is the closest Nordic country to Russia. They share a border of more than 800 miles. So in happier times, you could just walk across a bridge between Finland and St. Petersburg, Russia, to go to St. Petersburg's discos, and museums and
heritage.
But now that bridge is, I think, shut down. But Finland is shitting bricks because Russia could just flood Finland with a ton of troops. So it's understandable that they will let nukes be staged there.
Well, the thing is that there's a direct correlation between how Trump is handling Ukraine and the whole Ukraine-Russia war and the actual now nuclear arms race that we're in. Countries now see that the U.S. is not a stable partner. Countries now see that they are no longer protected or guaranteed protection, that the U.S. will not be there now. So they are trying to protect themselves. So now, because they're trying to protect themselves, Finland's doing what they see. Yeah, nobody attacks a nuclear nation. So therefore, you're going to have other nations doing the same exact thing. So you're going to have these smaller countries that we supposedly had treaties, deals with, and everything else. They can't trust those with Trump in office. So now we're in a nuclear arms race across the globe, and that's really scary.
No kidding. Yeah, and the idea of everybody being on guard and in a nuclear age, and more people having nuclear weapons it only takes one to trigger it all. And so, this is why we just wanted to have a very, very few countries, and the policy of mutually assured destruction would keep Russia and the US from doing it. Well, now if it's all over the world, and we have one person in one country decide, say the Trump of Iran or the Trump of India, Pakistan, whatever, that's all it would take to start it all.
Now check this out. Let's make it even scarier for you, though. Now, remember, the Trump administration just basically gave the death knell to the company that makes Claude AI. Why did they do that? They did it because they wanted to use AI in war. They wanted to use AI for mass surveillance and war. Well, there were some game simulations that ran and utilized AI in war. 95% of the AI chose nuclear war. And now you're talking about how AI is going to be globally used and the increase of AI in every facet of not only our lives, but across the globe. Dr. Sharif can tell you how AI is used there. I mean, it's used everywhere. So now we got AI taking over, and we have a nuclear arsenal or a nuclear arms race alongside of it. We all saw the end of war games. We all know what happens there.
To tell me, so if I'm hearing you right and correctly, AI chose the route of non-self-annihilation and everything like that, because if they're annihilating the human population, then the AI population will be what's in charge. So that, I'm not surprised that 95% of AI went with the notion of getting rid of us.
Terminator. Yeah.
Exactly. So right now that is the freaky part.
Skynet has evolved. Autonomous flying weapons, utilizing the AI. Ad tech in itself has, the ability to precisely determine where everybody who has a cell phone is located, and maybe even those who don't. Ad tech has that technology. It is available to the government. We are going to see a big push and an abuse of power to utilize these skills to be able to gain control of not just other countries, but our own country. So I'm concerned that we have a general who has been missing since last Friday when the first attack was ordered. I think he went missing a few hours after Trump had ordered the strikes. That's concerning to me because of what his background was as an engineer. We don't hear much about it. It doesn't even look like anyone's looking for him. And they're saying that it might have been, a mental issue, why he's missing. Maybe he just walked off and disappeared. But I think that there's just too many situations going on that are just coincidental. I'm just not buying the coincidence.
It's called the alignment problem. AI to share human interests, to convince AI that it's better for AI to leave things status quo. And there are good arguments to be made to say, AI, you don't want to wreck the world. That's unpredictable. It may backfire on you too. But the trouble is, if idiots are in charge of training AI, like Hegseth and the Department of War, then they might teach AI the wrong shit.
Well, AI is just what you feed it.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Remember, AI looks for efficiency. It wants to get you the easiest bit of information as quickly as possible. It's all about efficiency. Humans are very
it has no empathy. It doesn't care whether you live
humans.
or die.
Humans are very inefficient people. We are really very inefficient in what we do. Everything that we do. There are quicker ways to do particular things. AI will figure that out and render us useless. If we're useless,
mercy is cruelty, and
exactly
teach mercy to the AI.
How
I'll
many
tell
of
you,
you believe that Trump is using AI to come up with things to tell his people to gain more support for all the mistakes he's made and, make it look good? How many of you believe he's using AI?
No, because
to
Trump is a
put
freaking idiot. Now, Trump.
He's already done that. No,
Idiot surrounded by. Hold on. He's an idiot surrounded by idiots. Some of the idiots are probably talking to AI and coming up with solutions. But since they're idiots, they're not coming up with
No.
like Jim just said,
What-
garbage in, garbage out. If you have a garbage discussion with AI always kisses your ass. If an idiot
We're
talks to AI will say, well, that's brilliant. Run and tell your boss Trump to do this. And it might be just
I think we're missing it though. No, I think we're missing it because he's already done that. To garner black support in the vote in the
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
Yeah, sorry, Jacoby.
He's breaking up.
the bad spot.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Yeah, just really quickly along those same lines, and this is another story that I think you'll find interesting, Kim. But Mikey Weinstein, who is the founder and president of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, has told some news organizations that they received far greater than 200 complaints related to religious freedom from service members across more than 50 military installations since the war broke out. So the war is also creating a fission in people's attitudes around religion and serving as well. So they've already had that since the war broke out in
Let's
Iran.
talk
So
about why that might the Mideast shows up in the Bible since
Right.
and like some hardcore evangelical lunatics love war in the Mideast because they think it's the
Second coming.
fulfillment of the prophecies in the book of Revelation about the end times. So yeah, you don't want your commanding officers to be end times people who are.
And this was one of them is because they said once a complaint led to the commander told non-commissioned officers, hold on a second, in a March 2nd briefing that Donald Trump was anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to Earth. So that's actually what the commander says.
Yeah, end times believers have been in the government probably since Reagan, and you don't want them making decisions because they want the Mideast on fire and to hasten the return of Jesus.
But just really quickly, hopefully I passed this bad spot that I was walking through. But we do. That's what white Christian nationalism is, and that's what Trump has hired into these positions in office. So we have this white Christian nationalism pushed throughout the government, which yes, is causing a lot of this. On top of that, all wars, you can look them up. There are only two roots. One of two roots, religion and money. And now what you're talking about right there, Mark, talking about anointed by God.
Yeah. And I want to
the head, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, has a massive white Christian nationalist tattoo across half of his chest. That tattoo led Hegseth a few years ago to be not allowed to serve in certain security positions because it made his fellow officers think he was a security risk.
Which he is, and on many levels. But I want to go back to what Kimberly said about abuse of power. It goes back to you can go back as far as you want, really, with the Trump administration, but the tariffs, the mind-bogglingly stupid use of tariffs and by the executive branch was incorrect according to the Constitution. Congress controls the purse string, and this use of special military operations. This is again the purview of Congress. Now Trump is ignoring Congress, and there hasn't been enough people with the spine in Congress to make him stop. A vote to limit the presidential powers to declare war just failed. And the Supreme Court has been pretty much supporting Trump's abuse of the executive branch up until recently, when they're starting to get decisions that are against Trump. And so Trump in the State of the Union put the Supreme Court down. So he's ignoring the Supreme Court. He's ignoring Congress and doing what he wants.
Somebody's giving bad feedback here.
Yes, I'm also hearing it.
Since we started talking, Sasha earlier said the price of oil is $88 a barrel. No more. Now it's 89.
I have been told that we will see the gas prices rise up to $4 to $5 in the near future because of what just happened.
According to AAA, which tracks the prices, a month ago gas was $2.90. As of today, it's $3.32. It's up by 42 cents. Which,
well, this is where the American voter has to come in and notice it, because they're feeling the pinch. The effect of tariffs makes things more expensive, and you have fewer choices. So people notice this when they go grocery shopping. Then they go to the pump, they're going to notice the spike in gas prices. And so what people have done is traditionally thrown the bums out. But we now have a charismatic figure. At least some people think he's charismatic. And it's emotion-based rather than reason-based. But people are feeling the pinch. There's no question that everyone, except for very few billionaires, and there are more billionaires than there used to be, but there's still very few. And compared to the overall population is feeling the hurt. And so in this case, what we have traditionally done is throw the bums out. So when
speaking about bums speaking of bums leaving, we're now up to 64 senators and Congress people deciding not to run for re-election. The latest one was the guy down in Texas who was banging his assistant, who then committed suicide by dousing herself with gasoline and lighting a match. That guy has decided that he maybe should run for re-election.
Maybe.
He probably shouldn't run for re-election and everything like that. Get ready to wind down. I know Kim can take us out. I got to get to the Ukrainian show. But on a lighter note, and you'll love this, Jim, and everything, there is a new dinosaur species that has been found in the Sahara Desert. So while they're in the middle of the war, they found a new dinosaur. So we've got a new dinosaur that was just recently discovered as well. So they discovered that in the middle of the war.
The war is good.
And as for that, we are wrapping up on Friday, everyone. Stay healthy so that you can stay wealthy, and we'll see you Monday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then following that, we have TV shows all day long that will be discussing the economy, the impact of the war, and many, many wonderful things. We will also, some of our team will be heading to DC in the very near future to help change some of these laws. Until then, everyone, take care. Bye, James.
Bye.